was set back in 2003 by then Canadian slider and your former coach and teammate Pierre Luders, with Giulio Zardo, who was his brakeman then.
Up next, representing the Chinese team, we'll have Shady.
We had a few problems getting off 12 yesterday. It's always a tricky transition, and this chicane looks so easy, but...
It looks so easy, but it's challenging. Definitely you can see him trying to straighten out the sled, take the pressure, react to what it is happening in the sled, and again, he's trying to go straight in the straightaway, but it's hard when you're getting bounced around. And
yeah. More of a smile on Benny's face. He's saying hello to his wife, Elizabeth Varche, who's 2 weeks away from giving birth to their first son back home in Austria. Now, Xiao Yijun of China, his third World Cup start. His second was yesterday. Made his debut in Calgary, the final World Cup race of last season before the World Championships in Whistler. 25 years old with 22-year-old brakeman Shi Huao. Yesterday, Shi made his World Cup two-man debut.
The Chinese have come a long way, actually. I mean, they've got Andre, they've got Pierre, they've got some great sled mechanics, but overall the program's really coming together, and their driving skill has improved drastically, which is so awesome to see. For all the other countries, they're putting the work in and it's paying off.
Yeah. And as you say, they've hired smart, haven't they? They've got an awful lot of knowledge trying to lead them in the right direction.
They definitely have, but the athletes are very... they're talented, but they're also very passionate, and they really are working extremely hard, which is very cool to see too.
Well, they know they're a tip of a billion-plus nation iceberg, aren't they? So there'll be a lot of expectation. Not bad out of 12.
How he comes out of 14. A bit rough through those transitions. You definitely want to try and avoid those taps. At the end of the day, it's hard to do. Corner 14 sets you up for those, and you kind of just got to take what comes.
Going to be close at the line with Benny Meyer. 2/10 back, 55-56. Pierre Luders with one of those expressions on his face.
There definitely was some mistakes made, but at the end of the day, like you said, it's very, very early on in his career.
Yep.
And for him to be able to control on this Lake Placid track, to be able to get good, consistent, safe runs down, that's a huge win all on its own.
Well, the corners are in the same place as yesterday. Everything else has changed, though, with the ice conditions being so different.
Very much. Definitely went a little bit high, corner 5-6. Came out, though, into 10-11. I was a little bit worried, but he controlled corner 11. He really controlled corner 12. He's just taking what kind of comes, trying to make the best of corner 14 there, going into 17. And a lot of that just comes with experience.
Not a surprise with Pierre Luders coaching. They're not all in goggles, but we'll get back to that later. Third up, Dominik Dvorak finished in 13th place in yesterday's race. 23rd two-man World Cup start for the former decathlete and sprinter. Dominik Sushi is in behind him today. Jakub Noszek was pushing the sled yesterday. So again, getting everybody a race in the same weekend. And for the coaches and for the brakemen, it allows them to back themselves against their teammates.
It does. You're able to change equipment, make little tiny changes, or fix things that happened yesterday, try different brakemen, different runners, and make some changes. So it's rare you got back-to-back races, but when you do, you try and make the most of it. That hit out of 3 is one that sets you up. It is one you do want to take. You'll have to work too hard to not take it, and it will usually cause a skid. So that is a common one that you will see. This 7-8 transition also very important. Very smooth, very nice, very controlled by Dominik through here. Getting pulled away from the entrance 10. That will make a rough 11-12 transition for sure. That definitely hurts a little bit. But decent 14 came through that straightaway, not bad. That's what we call the second best line.
Yeah. Hard to get through without touching anything, without oversteering. Has he got speed at the line? Gap's gone out from 300s to 4/10 back in the second half. So he was pretty level up to Shady, and then we saw that late exit from Shady sent him all the wrong way through the labyrinth. It's very rare where one corner on a track is a standalone corner. They kind of lead into each other. Latest.
They definitely do. This track definitely 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is all one big, long, consistent, you know, corner after corner, and they line up with each other. Corner 10, 11, 12, 13, they all line up with each other. He almost made it through and shot that chicane, but he just nicked it over in the end, and it set the sled over. But that hit on the left afterwards will actually set him nice up for corner 17, so it's not all bad.
It's the labyrinth that got him out of Shady and then zigging when he should have zagged in the labyrinth. Next up, Hunter Church, one of the big stories of yesterday's race. He walked away very disappointed with 5th position. Say what now? Well, that's because he was 2nd after the first heat and couldn't quite hang on for a medal. He got good ice with Chris Horn behind him then and now. Let's see what the 23-year-old from Cadyville, New York can produce.
This is his home track. This is where he learned. Hunter's been driving on this track since he was a kid. Definitely a nice transition 1 to 2, which is good.
Well, you just had your first taste of the BMW Sled. Is it sensitive to drive? Is it comfortable for a driver? Does it look after you, or does it...
The Sled is very small, so how these guys get in so smooth amazes me every time. As you can see, he's gaining here.
All right, he needs a really good first heat. What about that pressure of being in a podium position the very first race of the season for your first time? That must have really been a lot of pressure for him yesterday too.
It definitely was. So I chatted to him a little bit about it. It's nerve-wracking, you know, when you're beating people that you see, that you know, that have won Olympics before.
Yeah.
In order to produce a result again is also challenging, but he did it here today. A good, solid run down by Hunter. He should be very proud of himself on that. He's got a lot of experience left to grow, which is awesome to see for the development program of the US. And he's just got to keep it simple. He knows what to do on this track. He's got to give it everything he's got at the start, and you know, he could be successful again today.
First heat yesterday, 55.08. Today, 55.14 on a much softer track. I think that could be a pretty good run as well.
Definitely could. You can see the experience. He knows how to handle this sled specifically, but on this track, where he needs to be, how to line up those corners to have those smooth transitions, because on this track, that's where the time comes from, is when you've got those smooth transitions. Your sled can run from one corner and just gain speed corner after corner after corner.
And his secret for the second heat will don't overthink it. Okay, 5th of our 21 sleds. This is Yoon Jung-won of Korea. Youngwo Seo, his stalwart brakeman. Seo is almost always behind one in 2-man and in the 4-man sleds. Double 2-man this weekend. Next weekend, the big buses, the double 4-man sport utility racing, as John Morgan likes to call it.
What's nice about this double race for these athletes here is it will mock an Olympic Games or a World Championship event where we've got 2 days of racing back to back. So they're going to get some experience before World Champs that they wouldn't normally get in order to know how to prepare and perform mentally and physically day after day.
And of course, next year's World Championships comes back to the track here in Mount Van Hovenberg. This year's in Altenburg, another tough driver's track. 1700s ahead of Hunter Church. Just creeping away a fraction. A little late coming into the labyrinth. Has he still got speed on board? Not so much.
You can see him come out of 14. He tried to avoid hitting the wall, started driving, and it caused a skid where the sled just starts to slide on the ice back and forth. That's what you want to avoid. You're better to take the taps and be running straight than you are to be skidding, and you see that at the bottom. It costs him a lot.
Yeah.
That straightaway is vital. Those 2 little kinks, those are 2 little mini corners, 15, 16, and you have to run the sled straight there. You're better to take those taps. Drivers don't like taking the taps. You know it bleeds time, but going sideways will bleed way more time because you just skid and you slide, and it's never fast.
Well, think of being a hockey player. If you bounce off another player, it slows you down, but if you put the skates sideways, what do we see here? Just, again, not in sync. You know, this is early in the season still. They're just not really hitting their marks together.
Yeah, timing of pilot and brakeman is so crucial. He hung it out a little bit high on corner 8, and you can see him just kind of flop off, makes a little bit rough. You can see him moving the steering ropes there. He's trying to gain control back, that front to back balance as a pilot, how much weight you have in the back, and that control. You're constantly fighting for it, and it just caused him to lose a lot of speed and time.
Hunter Church, Yoon Jung-won, Benny Meyer, the top 3 after our first 5 of 21 sleds. Roman Heinrich of France in February's race here grabbed a silver medal after leading in the first heat, just beaten by Francesco Frugic in Francesco's perfect season. Yesterday, disappointed to be tied for 9th. They had a crash in training as well.
You can see him enter corner 1 on that right-hand side. That would make a hard transition into corner 1. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he bleeds a little bit of time up here, which you'll see in a couple corners later, just built off of that. There we go.
Former brakeman, this is his 32nd World Cup start, only his 14th though as a driver. Took himself out the French program, bought a sled, taught himself to drive, and then came back, and now he is their only representative at World Cup level. 800s back, still in with a shout.
He's taking the taps, but he's running it straight. Again, that's the best that he can do in those scenarios. A little bit hanging on a little long in those bottom corners, 17, 18, 19, causing the sled just to kind of flop off, hit that ice hard at the end of the corners, so he'll bleed a little bit of time there at the bottom as well.
59.59 slides. What did he do in yesterday's first heat? Didn't write that one down, so don't know, but again, yeah, he got pushed away a few times. And down at the bottom, when you get out of the chicane, you go over the hill through the chicane, down, and then it starts to climb back up. Most of the heart is uphill, so mistakes there really
It does. You see him get a little hung up as he starts to get in. The sled will all of a sudden go over towards what our screen is the left-hand side. You want to run that straight in. It just made for a harder transition into 1 than you should be in. Any little step left or right off of the normal straight in path will cost you a little bit of time, and you'll just consistently bleed that all the way down.
So Roman Heinrich in 5th place out of 6 sleds so far. A little bit disappointed with that. Dorian Otteville, his brakeman. Now here's 22-year-old Swiss Mikkel Vogt. Cyril Bieri on the back handles today. The 26-year-old Swiss Army soldier making his 3rd two-man start. It's Vogt's 9th in the World Cup.
And here's a pilot who drives with gloves. That is rare. You don't see that commonly. Some pilots, it's all personal choice. Some choose to, some don't. Some feel that they can have good feeling with gloves. Again, some don't. But interesting to see one that does.
Yeah. I guess when it's minus 20 in St. Moritz, that all helps.
Yeah,
everything is minus 20.
Yes. Came out of 3, took a tap, and then it just sent him a little too early over, and he took another tap into 4. You can see him really controlling that front of the sled, the back just sliding up and down off the corners to the middle section. Unfortunately, these are not the smoothest of transitions. He's hanging on. He's trying to get to those good lines. Again, just hitting and skidding all through the straightaway. He's just going to continue to bleed time all the way up this track.
As it goes out of our shot, the chicane, he's sideways onto 17, and that means everything digs in under G-forces. 55.66 for him, 6th fastest run of the heats so far. So Mikkel Vogt yesterday, 55.43 in the first heat. And Hunter Church was only, 600 slower in his first heat than the first heat yesterday. So I'm not sure that's out of the top draw for Mikkel Vogt.
As he comes through here again, you can see that front and the back of the sled just articulating. He comes in, he steers really hard at the exit of 7, so he's a little high at the exit. It makes for a harder transition, pushes that height later around 8, and he just kind of slaps off, slaps on, comes through 12, steers it again, just had that high late, and so he comes off the corner with no problem, but the sled is just doing a lot of extra moving back and forth, slapping on and off the ice, and you bleed time every time it does that.
So Mikkel Vogt in 6th behind Roman Heinrich in 5th. It's Hunter Church who still leads the first heat. And now we're going to start to get into the top 5 in last year's World Cup points. Oskars Kiebermanis, season-long runner-up, 2 silver and 3 bronze medals out of the 8 World Cup races last year. He finished 4th yesterday, just squeezed off the podium by Justin Cripps of Canada.
I had a conversation with him on the last day of training about it, just about the ice conditions themselves. And both of us, you know, I mean, the track crew here has done a really, really great job of making the ice smooth, making those transitions nice and smooth, or as smooth as they can be for the Lake Placid track. And so that was really, really nice to see and have that conversation with him about.
I talked to John Napier, the Ice Meister, yesterday, the man who used to drive bobsled for the US program. And he was just saying, please praise my guys, because they have worked so hard over the last month to keep all this alive. You were here in the America's Cup race weekend 2 weeks ago. Insane numbers of sleds going down. They had luge last weekend. It's a double World Cup weekend for bobsleigh and skeleton. So this week and next week. They're going to earn their Christmas break, that's for sure. Oscar's Keeperman is still in the green, but it's a narrow lead. Come down from 2 turns. Is he in the green? He's not. He's tied, though. Yeah, Sanders Prusis, winner on this track when it opened in 2000 in the Goodwill Games. That was him smiling on the left-hand side. Well, again, that underlines Hunter Church using knowledge. Yeah, if this was in Altenburg, we'd be going, oh my goodness, how is he driving this so well? He knows the track, but you've got to place your strengths.
You do, you definitely do. You know, this run by Oscar's, it had some good parts. It had a little bit, some rough parts too. His strength is going to be the start, especially over Hunter Church. This is where he's going to excel, and he played to his strengths. The Latvians are always one of the stronger starting teams on the circuit as a whole. But overall, his 6, 7, 8, 9 transition was very, very nice. Oscar's is controlling the sled. He stayed long on corner 10, which puts him very nice, very early on into 11. That will make for a smoother 11, 12, 13 transition, which is how you take the speed into that flatter section, which is where his time comes from, and he's able to, you know, maximize the start that he did put in.
6th place yesterday behind teammate Hunter Church for Cody Basque from Whitehall, New York. Kyle Wilcox on the back of the sled. Josh Williamson pushing yesterday, and we heard Cody apologizing to Josh, said, I gave everything I had, but he's got a hamstring problem, a calf issue as well. 5:28. Now his teammate Hunter Church leads on a 5:25 start. And Cody perhaps knows the track even better.
Cody, Hunter, both of them grew up driving on this track. His corner 1 to 2, he was a little bit too early. He was on that right side going in. You can see him kind of trying to change the runners there to straighten it out to avoid the wall, but he knows how to drive this track. He knows how to find time on this track. He's 2 tenths down. That's going to come at the start. Unfortunately, injuries are part of it. Hamstrings are a common injury for bobsledders. We are sprinting. It is cold outside. You know, he's had injuries. It's been something that's been plaguing him.
Great speed, second only to Hunter Church. How close will he be at the line? 3100s back. It's drifting away. What does he find uphill to the finish line? Across the line, 5th place. 55.47, where we've got a tie for first. Third place is 1200s back. He's in 5th, 3300s back.
And it's always hard when you've got an injury, because as much as you aren't thinking about it, you're constantly thinking about it. You don't want it to get worse. You know, you can see him kind of just moving around, trying to feel everything out. And that will affect your feeling in this sled as well. As he comes through here, he has a nice line out of 14. But again, you can see him moving those runners, trying to feel that front and the back and allow it to go straight ideally, but it's always a challenge with pressure. You got to just kind of take what comes and adjust on the fly. A very nice transition through 17 to 18. They're up into 19. Like I said, Cody knows how to find time on this track. It just wasn't able to do it that run, but we'll see what happens next run.
58 World Cup start of Francesco Friedrich's career, and Alexander Schuler joins him. Alexander Schuler, 22-year-old former discus thrower from Leipzig. His second year in the sport. He's raced twice in 2-man, 1 gold both times. That's the kind of brakeman you like to have behind you. Francesco Friedrich hunting down career win number 23.
5 flat for a start. This is why these guys are just so dominant. They are so fast. The depth in their program is so great.
Again, yesterday, in much stickier conditions at the start, they started 5:11. Francesco with Torsten Margis, who's his go-to guy. So Schuler will be very happy to start a 5 flat.
Yeah, 4 tenths up as he comes through Shady. He's maximizing that start. Again, every 100th at the start, they say they times it by 3. If everything is the same, you'll be, 300ths at the bottom. Every 10, 3 tenths by the bottom if everything's the same. So
speed's not great, only 8th fastest. That's 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour down on Hunter Church. So he will have the lead, but not by much. 1800s. Considering he started 2500s faster, he should be 7500s ahead. And he's 1800s ahead.
For sure, definitely lost a bunch driving down, especially through that mid-section and the bottom section of the track. He bled a lot of time.
Well, he's one of our 2 Olympic champions from Pyeongchang.
Was really high at the exit there, and again, you can just see the heads and the bodies of the brakeman as well as the pilot bouncing around really high at the exit of 12. There comes across. double taps as well as lifts that back bunk a little bit out of 12. So he's not going to be super happy with that. At the same point, you know, they've only had now 8 runs down this track. And so it's a challenge for the Germans to be able to come and compete and learn such a difficult track in such a short period of time. It's always a challenge, and you know, Francesco always rises to the occasion.
Well, we've had the first of our 2-man Olympic champions from Pyeongchang. Here is the other one, because we had a dead heat over 4 runs. They couldn't be separated even by 1/100th of a second. Francesco Friedrich and Justin Kripps. Kripps coming into the finish area. The Germans were leaping all over him, but his teammate had held up the one finger that shows you're first. He couldn't understand why the Germans were so happy that he'd won gold. Well, that's because they had to. So Justin Kripps behind him, Cam Stones today, 27-year-old from Calgary.
5:21 start.
And these two guys won here 2 weeks ago in 2-man in the North America's Cup.
And here's the difference that we see. We had Ben Coquel yesterday race with Justin Kripps. Today we have Cam Stones. This is going to be a chance for the Canadian program to see what the difference is with those 2 brakemen with Justin Kripps. What kind of results can they produce at the start? And, you know, what's it like to ride with 2 different guys in the back of the sled?
Plus, it gets them into the race. It gets them fit, keeps people fit and healthy. You're not continually going to the same guy every time. And
it provides opportunity, you know, it's fantastic to see. A little bit rough through that transition there. Hit and then kind of bounced and caused a little bit of the skid through that transition.
2900s back, only the 8th fastest start. Where's he going to be? 4th at the line. It is 4th at the line. 55.24 for Justin Kripps. Well, Francesco Friedrich leads 2800s ahead. 2nd place equal is 1800s back. So a 10th away from Kripps. From here, medals are definitely on the cards. A real possibility. Even Jung Jong-won, 3/10 back. He's got a shot.
Definitely, as you can see through here, comes on, has a decent transition. Turn the sled early into 12. Sled comes off. He gets really early onto 13, so there's a little bit of room for improvement here, but where he lost it was down through this 14 section. You can see the sled is bouncing around a little bit. He's taking those hits, but just finding it difficult to run it straight. And so overall room for improvement through that corner 14 down into the 17, and that's where he'll gain more time for sure, 2nd run.
9th equal yesterday, Christoph Hafer of Germany. And the youngster who we've seen as a junior world champion, he won the junior worlds in Altenburg in 2015 rather, came then to the world championships in Winterberg. The junior world champion always gets a wild card entry. He's only had a couple of World Cup starts, and he's here really because Nico Walter is injured back home in Dresden. 5:26 start for Hafer, with Christian Hammers having his first race of the weekend.
Nice transition, 2 to 3. Again, comes off of 3, takes that double tap, but then the sled goes straight down into 4, which is what you're looking for.
The Germans all here with their full teams, because although it's double 2-man this weekend, they're going to need the whole 4-man crew for both races next weekend. And then head back to Europe for, well, for us, Christmas holidays, for all the competitors. Oh, big
skid.
selection trials.
Yeah, it came out, looked like it was going to be good out of 14, but the pressure just caused him and that back end to slide out. And then again, you're just side sweeping that straightaway, which costs a lot of time.
Only the 10th fastest start, finishes in 7th spot though, 200s behind Benny Meyer of Austria.
Overall, it was a good run. Again, he's going to want to clean up that 14 through 17 transition, but he was able to outdrive and outperform his start, which is what you're looking for from a driver's aspect, which is fantastic to see. Again, especially coming from the Germans who weren't here weeks earlier for the North American races, they've definitely had to step up their game, and they've had the least amount of time on this track.
Yeah.
Hung it up a little bit high at the exit of 12. 12's causing a little bit of issues, and all of 12 happens earlier with corner 10 and 11. And again, just sliding and skidding. There's not much the pilot can do through there. You come through a bit of a dip, and whatever pressure you do have in this sled, if it's not equal and fair, it will cause that sled to go sideways, and you're just trying to survive and control it.
12 is one of the cornerstones to a good run down here, isn't it? And let's see now if Hansi Lochner, yesterday's winner, can get that right. The girl who finished in bronze behind you yesterday, Kim Kalicki, was saying after training, I know what I'm supposed to do in 12. I just can't do it. Well, she got the bronze anyway, so.
She did a fantastic job driving. She really did. I mean, I think it's because they have Stefan Bosch now, my old coach, a part of their program. But at the end of the day, you know, they're really, they're doing a great job. They're learning, and Kim Kalicki was, I think she was a surprise. And she drove fantastic. I watched the race after.
Yeah, him and Vanessa Marks on their debut in the World Cup, taking a bronze medal. Hansi Lochner won yesterday in what was his 27th World Cup in two-man, his third career win.
See what he can do. 1500s behind. Did not have a very good 2 to 3 transition, but so far is 1500s. He stopped the bleeding, and then again we'll see what he can do down here.
And Florian Bauer behind him yesterday, Christian Rasp behind him today. And they
a 10th, and that was a great straightaway. Fantastic straightaway. I think we're really going to see him come up.
Before yesterday,
Only
Hansi had
100.
won 2 two-man races. Christian Rasp was in the sled with the last of them in St. Moritz in January 17, and he leads the race, 54.92. The goofy smile will be back on his face again, won't it?
It sure will. He had a great corner 14. His bottom was nice and controlled, fairly smooth, a lot better. He definitely drove that bottom portion the best out of anybody. And similar, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 looked very smooth. The transitions, he was nice and in control, which is how you take speed down this track.
All right, 2 career wins until yesterday. Could it be doubling that this weekend? Hansi Lochner puts himself in the lead of the race, again ahead of teammate Francesco Frigic, but only by 400ths.
As he comes out of 14, he's close to that, what is the driver's side right, but our side left, and he's able to shoot that straight, take all that speed down with him into this bottom part right before it goes uphill, which again is huge, and that's where he goes from a 10th behind to, you know, 500ths ahead, easy.
You never sit on a 2-goal lead, and he's definitely not going to relax being a whole 400ths ahead of Francesco Frigic, Mr. Win Everything last year. So now then, we've got 13 sleds down, and this is our 14th. Suk Young Jin, the 29-year-old Korean, his 12th World Cup start. And the giant behind him, Yang Ki-kun, 1.99 m, that's 6'7" in old money, 100 kilos, 225 pounds. Look at the size of that brake man.
He's a big one, for sure.
He ain't getting in a BMW sled.
I'm sure he'd find a way to fit. At the end of the day, though, it always amazes me. These big guys are pushing as fast as they can, getting that speed up, you know, to 50 miles an hour, if not more on some tracks, and they find a way to be very graceful and get in these tiny little sleds.
He's kind of linebacker size. He's way bigger than a wide receiver. I don't know what his pace is over 50, but he gets the sled started well. 5:29 getaway, but they're losing time all the way down here.
Yeah, rough transitions again. He's not a bad through 14, took the 2 taps, but again, he's running it straight. But just on and off some of these transitions, 7, 8, 9, even 11, 12, 13, a little bit rough. You see the sled just kind of whip on and off, slap on and off the corners, which again just makes for rougher transitions and leads time when that happens.
Well, Suk finished just outside the top 10 yesterday in 11th place. He's going to need to find a bit more pace. 14th of 14 sleds. And at the moment, he is 9200ths off the lead. So that was not from the top draw. It is only his 12th World Cup start.
You see how tall that brakeman is at the back. He's slumped over, giving it everything. His knees are up and in his armpits when he gets down and in that sled, but he gets in.
Yeah. You know, for a normal human being, it'd take you a minute to slip yourself in, even in trainers behind the brakeman. They do it in a couple of seconds.
He had a rough transition, kind of 12 into 13, but that's one of the most difficult parts on this track.
Celebrating their 32nd season as a National Sliding Federation Monaco. This is Rudy Rinaldi. Yesterday, Steven Borges was on the back of the sled. He's not feeling very well today, so Boris Vin, who is the go-to guy normally, he gets his first start of the season for Rudy Rinaldi. 14th place finish yesterday. He walked away looking not very impressed. Let's see if he's got a bit more today. Bruno Mijon with the red hat on in the background. He's their driving coach, knows a lot about driving bobsleds over the years.
5:15, that's a very good start.
Yeah, Bobsleigh is a big beast. Maybe he wasn't feeling quite as healthy at the start of the week, but that's a
rough
great
corner
getaway.
3 transition. Definitely the sled, you can see it articulate and just slaps off the corner, heads into the wall. Hanging it off. Some of these corners a little bit, again, just a little floppy on and off the corners, just making for rough transitions. You definitely feel that as a pilot and as a brakeman in the back of that sled, but he's making it through. He's coming down. Gonna take a lot of skids and a lot of hits through that straightaway. He came out of 14 on that left side, which just means you're aiming right for the wall, and you kind of just got to take what you get at that point and try and straighten it out as best you can. But the ice, you know, ice is hard and it's slippery, and it's gonna go where it's gonna go depending on the pressure. So you can only really work as a driver in the corner specifically, and then try and accelerate it as it comes out.
Well, it's Kaylee Humphries, double Olympic champion, yesterday's race winner in the women's bobsled race. And
you can tell he's not happy with that run. He's
wow.
shaking his head. He knows where he made those mistakes. He knows.
That's not helping his back injury either. He's still feeling the pain of a back injury during the summer, so.
Definitely not. Corner 7 sets you up for this 8-9 transition. He comes off 7 a little bit too abrupt. It pushes that height a little late into 9, and then again, he has to whip into 9 and then grab that control in order to be able to make it around. He comes out too high at the exit of 17, goes straight into the wall, and then again, it shoots him straight to the other wall. He wasn't able to maximize the pressure in the steer in 14 to drill it straight down in through that straightaway.
Hurry up offense from Jeff Garbois in the third of our US sleds, with Blaine McConnell behind him today. Garbois finishing in 19th place yesterday. A little disappointed with his run. Now, he's the only US driver who is not in a BMW sled. He went out last year, bought himself a BTC, a sled you're very familiar with as well. So he gets the chance to try different things that the others don't.
He does. Jeff definitely enjoys the feel of the BTC. Just like every car, every sled will feel and drive differently with the handling. And Jeff likes the feel of the BTC in his hands. He feels like he's got more control and he's able to maximize the performance of the sled. Definitely took pressure with him and just skidded for majority of that straightaway. Which he'll continue to bleed time all the way down because of it. You can see him ducking his head, trying to aerodynamically maximize the benefits up through that 18, 19. He's got the skill on this track. He knows exactly what's supposed to happen, where he's supposed to be, so he's fortunate he's able to kind of duck his head down and just go by feel near the end.
And if you say, what's the point? It might only save you 100th of a second. Well, he's 200 ahead of Sook of Korea, and that's the lack of wind resistance.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
He knows he's safe there. It won't crash in off 18 into 19 and up to the line. So, yeah, save the time.
Comes out of 14, and you can see just that back end starts to break away. He took the tap, and again, it's that little tiny sideways skid that was getting worse and worse and worse down into 17, and that just makes for a rough entrance into 17 too, because as the sled whips onto the corner, it will straighten itself out, but there's just a lot of sideways motion, which again, when the sled's not running straight, you're bleeding time.
Johannes Lochner, Francesco Frugic, Oskars Kiebermanis, the top 3 ahead of Hunter Church and Justin Cripps. So we've had 16 of our 21 sleds down, 5 to go, only 4 places in the race. Somebody is not going to make the second heat. Will it be Alexei Stulnev? He's got Ilya Malik, the giant Russian brakeman, behind him. So again, changing up the brakemen from day 1 to day 2 of the season. Stulnev making yesterday his first race start since the Olympic Games in Pyeongchang.
Yeah, it's a great time for pilots to be able to test out brakemen, give brakemen the opportunities. It's the same track, similar conditions, same start, so you can judge and see, you know, how their performance is, and if they're the type of 2-man brakeman for this type of start. Every start around the world being very different. This one definitely gets flat and then drops off fairly quick. So is this brakeman, and does their skill set match this track?
And the other thing is, if you're an alternate and you spend the entire season just sled dogging and you never get a race, then your motivation just, it takes a hit. It
depletes, it definitely does. Plus it's early in the season, you want to save your top guys, you want to provide other opportunities. He had a great exit 14 there. You can definitely see experience coming through, how he handles and controls the sled, the smoothness of it. But the exit 14 was one of the nicer ones we've seen.
Like you, had the year off last year, and that gives you all sorts of chances to just clear your mind and think about what your future does and what you need to do with your body, because none of us are getting any younger, with no disrespect. You know, every year of an elite athlete's life, you batter the body again and again.
It does. At the same point, you know, you risk that rust creeping in your ability, in your skill, and you know, the ability to just be able to get back in, have that feeling that doesn't necessarily go away. At the same point, you know, the sport does move on.
Yeah.
He comes out, you know, that center right on our screen and is able to drill it straight down into 17. That's one of the nicest 14 to 17 transitions we've seen.
Little smile from Alexei Stulnev. So Ilya Malik with the runners out of the grooves at the start. So again, race rusty. He's got to get that tidied up a little. His teammate Maxim Anjanov up next, our 18th slider. 31-year-old former luge racer in his 33rd World Cup. Vasily Kondratenko on the back handles. And Vasily, 30 years old, making only his 9th two-man start. His last two were in the Olympic Games and here in February this year. So an occasional two-man brakeman. 5:22 getaway for the Russians. The fastest start in the competition is a 5 flat, so they're giving away a lot of time before they even sit down.
Definitely that 3 into 4, 4 into 5, 5 into 6 transition is so important to line these corners up. You want to be very nice transition 8, 9. It looks very smooth, as you can see. That will translate into how it feels in your body. Definitely a late entrance, which we can see through 12. That entrance into 11 really affects how you enter into 12 and then what you can do in 12 in that corner specifically.
Both the Russians shoot the chicane well, but the speed is woeful. Only 14th fastest there, 81.4 to 84.2 of the fastest sled, Hunter Church. And that's where the time goes. 1600s behind at the start, 8 tenths behind at the bottom.
And some of that speed's going to come from the runners, the steel blades that the sled runs on. Some of it's going to come from the sled and the setup. You've got, you know, your leaf springs and your articulation springs and your 2 axles, how the sled sets up, the balance of the athletes, their weight front to back, as well as the smoothness in your driving and how that sled enters on and comes off all of these corners. How the sled articulates here. Again, he's just got high later pressure, comes off, taps the wall there. Not too bad, comes out more middle left, but is able to sneak through this straightaway. That is very, very challenging to do. I was not even able to do this. I know how hard it is, and you do have literally inches on either side. You have to nail that perfectly in order to be able to sneak through there without hitting, touching, or losing pressure and causing a sideways skid through that straightaway.
18 sleds down, 3 to go here. First heat of race 2 of the two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Martin Haven and Kaylee Humphreys watching the action trackside in Lake Placid. This is Ralph Bershins of Latvia, his 5th World Cup start in two-man. Another former luge athlete, only started driving bobsleigh at the beginning of the season before last. And this is year 3 for the youngster.
Luge has a lot of feeling, getting a lot of their drivers to transition over. You're now driving with your hands instead of your feet, but they understand driving principles. They know where you need to be on the track. They know pressure, and they know the corners of all the tracks because they are all completely different. And so again, it's learning to drive with your hands versus your feet, but at the end of the day, lining it up, it's they make for good bobsled pilots.
Yeah. Racing line is the racing line. 5:19 start for them. That was the 7th fast, but he's already drifting out to 15th position on the splits.
Again, just entering corner 11 too late, and that makes for a very hard transition in order to stay long on 11, to have early height into 12. And if you don't have that early height, you're going to be high late, and you're going to come off and hit that wall on that right side.
So 11 is the key to getting 12 right, but coming off Shady right is the key to 11. Coming out of the Devil's Highway onto Shady, you see, it's not individual corners. They all link together, don't they?
They all link together. Those straightaways allow for a little bit of a break in corner after corner and linking them up at the same point. If you don't get that last corner correct, you won't run the straightaway correct, and then how you enter will change and can drastically change everything. So it's that's always always the challenge on this track and why they say it's a driver's track, because you do have to link up those corners. So he comes out of here, he's on that left wall, which means he's going late into 11. He's got to turn that sled harder in order to keep it lower to stay long on. And if you don't do enough, you won't get that nice cross transition. You won't get that early height in 12. You'll push the height late, which is what we see. He's high at the end, and you have no chance but to, flop off and basically drive it right into the wall.
Yeah, it's an evil spiral. 20th of our sleds is Marcus Treichel with Christian Huber behind him. He had Marcus Sammer behind him yesterday. They did not make the cut. 21st in the first heat, so they didn't get a second run. You can see all their funding on the side of the sled.
And having those people, having those sponsors as an athlete is so critical. That support from friends, from family, from corporations, businesses. This is how bobsledders survive. This is how you get some of the best equipment. Some of these sleds are worth $40, $50, $60, $80,000. You got one, you treat it nice, but you need help and that family support to be able to go week in, week out on tour and compete at this top level with some of the bigger nations.
Yeah, self-funding is increasingly a way forward, either from family and friends or like some of the US skeleton sliders, GoFundMe pages or whatever. And as you know, self-funding is exactly that. It means you're watching the pennies and making sure the travel is as cheap as it can be.
Definitely isn't. For some of these younger pilots, it's how you start to build and grow from the business side of being an athlete. Definitely the bottom part, not the best. He definitely had some issues in corner 14, as you can see, bouncing around, hitting. But his beginning portion of the track was really nice.
Yeah.
And even his 10, 11, 12 was a very nice controlled line.
Well, until he got out of the labyrinth, he was in the race. He was 18th on the splits. Now he's 20th out of 20.
He lost it at the bottom. Corner 14.
Yeah.
Just took, again, a double tap, came down too hard, hit on the right, hit on the left, again on the right and left going in, and that just cost him.
And this is in the labyrinth, just a little above that, later, and
close,
wow.
High to the roof up there, and he comes out, he hits on that left again, hits on the right, he'll hit again on the left, again on the right, plus that huge skid. That's where he lost all of his time. And unfortunately, all it takes is one corner. You have a slight misfocus, lapse in judgment, or just, something doesn't go right in the corner, and that can cost you an entire race.
The salvation for Marcus Treichel may come here. This is our World Cup debutant today. Li Chujian of China, 23-year-old, raced here in the NAC, has had podium finishes, did the Olympic Games in 2 and 4 man, and Wu Shaitao behind him, making his first World Cup, his second World Cup start rather. But the rookie here, replacing Sun Kai-chi, who raced yesterday. So this is first ever World Cup race for Li.
And again, to see the depth in the Chinese program, they have a pilot up and coming, ready to take over. They're really trying to develop more than just 1 or 2 good pilots. They're really trying to get everybody experience, racing experience, driving on all these different tracks. Pierre, Andre, they're using the knowledge that they have in the sport to help build a program, and that's fantastic to see, especially when that effort is matched by the athletes in the program, and they're here, they're committing time. I know they've been here for over a month. They spent the US Thanksgiving holiday here. They haven't gone home. They're committed to training and learning. That is a very nice 14, especially from somebody in a rookie position on the World Cup. That is better than I did, so props to him for that, because that was fantastic to see and witness.
This is a heck of a run for a rookie. 5th fastest at the start. He's 13th, and there's a smile from Pierre Luders. So there was no salvation. Marcus Treichel fails to make the cut again.
That was a fantastic run.
Yeah, so Xiao of China 11th, 64 hundredths back. Li of China on his World Cup debut, 13th. 5 hundredths of a second slower.
And it's always cool to see athletes, do they, in their first World Cup race, do they excel under pressure? There's a lot of pressure. There's got to be a lot of nerves. Can he focus and do his job? And he comes out and he just nails that straightaway. That is a fantastic line to be able to see. He drills it straight from 14 into 17. He takes all that speed that he's developed and he accelerates it down the track. He should be very happy with himself on that. And I hope he can do it again. But that's fantastic to see. Great start.
Well, even if the second one goes away, he's proved that he's got pace. So too has Johannes Lochner. Yesterday a race winner, and today he, like yesterday, leads after the first heat with the fastest start. Francesco Friedrich is snapping at his heels, but Hansi Lochner, with the confidence of yesterday's victory, will lead going into the second heat here in Lake Placid today. So a double two-man weekend. 2 career wins before yesterday. He may double up today. But Francesco Friedrich, you never overlook him. He's only 400s back. Behind, Keeper Manis and Hunter Church tied for the bronze medal. Justin Cripps a further 10th back. And what about Yun Jong-won, a career? Benny Meyer out of the reckoning for the medals. But somewhere from that top 6, the 3 medals will be handed out. And for our rookie who just finished his run, Li Chujian of China, 13th place, a fantastic run. 5th fastest start, shows what potential they've got. Marcus Treichel. And today, I'm afraid, Christian Huber do not make the second heat. So Ralph Bertjens of Latvia will be off first in Heat 2. And that comes up at 12:30, 3:30 Eastern, which is 20:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Wherever you are, join Katie Humphries, me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew for the second and deciding heat, race 2 of the season here in Lake Placid.